Hey everyone, Mike Burke here with InsideRealEstatePhotography.com, and in this video I'm going to be talking with Sam Carrigan of Move Media out of Spokane, Washington about his personal journey and progression as a real estate photographer. So if you've ever watched my mission statement video or read it on my website, then you'll know that one of the goals I've always had for this channel has been to create a community of real estate photographers so that we all can share ideas and learn from each other. In the spirit of that, I'm starting this new series here on the channel where I'm going to have other real estate photographers on so that they can share their stories and add their voice to the conversation. I want to involve as much of you all in this as possible. That being said, if you're interested in sharing your story and helping and inspiring others, then please email me at mike@InsideRealEstatePhotography.com and tell me a little bit about yourself and your business. I know the photography tutorials and that type of content is the most fun and exciting to watch. I love those type of videos as well. But I really feel that this type of video here that we're doing is going to provide some of the most valuable content on this channel. I get asked time and time again about how to get new clients, how to build a real estate photography business, and I really feel that this type of video, talking to other real estate photographers from all over the place and how they built their business from the ground up, is going to provide a lot of insight into that question and help a lot of people. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Before we continue on with this video, I just want to share a quick word about our sponsor, PixelMob. Let's face it, if you're someone looking for editing help, trying to find a real estate photo editor can be a daunting task. There are so many of them out there and it's almost impossible to know which ones are trustworthy and do good work. That's where PixelMob comes in and helps you take the guesswork out of finding a reputable editor and connects you with the right people to do the job. PixelMob is a website that links you to available editors capable of doing just about any sort of real estate photo editing you can imagine, including HDR blending, flambient, virtual staging, object removal, etc. The best part of all is that PixelMob vets all the editors prior to allowing them onto their platform to ensure that they can indeed deliver on what they say they can. I also really like that there's a peer review system where photographers can rate the editors from 1 to 5 stars, giving you further tools and helping you choose the best editor to work with for your particular job. The editor also does not get paid until you are satisfied with your order. There's been such a sore need for something like PixelMob in our industry, which is why I teamed up with these guys to help get the word out, because I think a lot of us could benefit from this. It's completely free to sign up, and if you use my link down in the description below, you'll receive a $12 credit towards your first order, so there's no reason not to at least give it a try.
All right, so if you don't mind just first introducing yourself and, telling us where you're from.
Yeah, hi, well, my name is Sam. I'm from Spokane, Washington. I've lived here most of my life, other than a brief period right after high school when I joined the Army. Got here after that time and got into real estate, and now I'm doing real estate photography.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service. How long were you in the military for?
I was in for about 4 years, and just wasn't for me. So I wanted to pursue different career options after doing that, getting out of high school, and I think it has a lot to do with my work ethic now. But I don't think I'd be where I'm at without it. Super happy with the way my life has progressed so far.
Awesome. Well, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 24. I'll be 25 in June. So
awesome. How did you get into real estate photography? What was your path that led you into that?
I originally actually started as a realtor. I got my license back, let's see, I guess it was the end of, or early 2020 is when I got licensed as a realtor. So I was doing that full time. It was shortly after getting out of the Army, and I enjoyed it, but I have always had more of an interest in photography, videography stuff. I was always warned away from it as a kid because, most people, especially from the, my parents' era, looked at videographers and photographers as starving artists. Yeah. And I understood why there wasn't, an abundance of work to go around. But after getting into real estate, it became pretty obvious that almost every realtor hires a professional photographer or videographer for their listings. So I saw that as an opportunity for me to get into, back into doing what I've always really enjoyed. And it's all just kind of snowballed from there.
So yeah, maybe if you would talk about, your company, the name of your company, when you started the company officially, that sort of thing.
So the name of my company is Move Media. I started it officially in 2020. And I was just doing that part-time at the beginning while still doing real estate. And it's just since the beginning, you know, that was my initial plan, was really just to work it as a part-time job, as kind of a side hustle. We were having a hard time getting a drone photographer scheduled on our team, and most of them were pretty booked out. So that was kind of the start. Was I went and got my Part 107 certification, and so I was just doing all the drone photography for my real estate company. And eventually it came to a point where we realized it's not worth sending 2 people out to every single property to shoot it. So that's when I bought the camera and started watching Mike's videos. So that was kind of the start.
Well, I'm glad they helped you. That's awesome. So you are full-time doing it now, right?
Yep, I've been doing real estate photography full-time for a little over a year now. So, and I mean, I don't really have any intention of changing that. It's gotten busy in a really good way. So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you did it in pretty relatively short amount of time, which is really great. Yeah, you were a realtor, so that helps. You had contacts. So yeah, talk a little bit about that if you don't mind. So like the realtors you were working with were sort of your first clients, I imagine. And then if you could talk about how that sort of grew from that point.
There's no secret. I don't keep it a secret for anybody here in town that my mom is my broker. So I've always been involved in the real estate industry. I've always been a part of it since I was a kid. I probably went on my first showing when I was like 4 years old. So I already knew a lot of people within the real estate industry in town. But you know, becoming a broker and doing that for a while and building relationships that way really did help gaining my first clients as a photographer, because people could always, you know, already trust me in my work ethic. So they knew that, you know, it was, and after seeing that, you know, some examples, obviously, that I could get the job done. So it helped because I had just that base level of trust right off the bat with quite a few agents in town, probably about 25 to 30 people. So I already had a consistent client base right off the bat. And it definitely gave me the experience I needed to really drive this business forward with a little bit, I guess you could say, an earlier start than some people. It's really just now picking up to the point where I'm really satisfied with it. And at this point, I am starting to hit capacity, but it was slow at the beginning. That's why it was a part-time thing for quite a while. And I wasn't even positive I was going to do real estate photography full-time until I got really busy, until I had a lot of clients. And that's when I realized, like, this is a viable option for me. So
my situation was very similar to that. You know, I got into this because my cousin became a realtor, and, so similar in that regard. And yeah, I wasn't even thinking of it being a full-time gig. It was just, like make some extra money kind of thing. And it just grew into that point where I was like, wow, this could be, full-time, which is, a great feeling. The clients outside of, your mom's brokerage or, whoever you were working with, was that all just sort of referrals basically? Is that how you kind of gained, new clients? Was basically word of mouth mostly? Have you ever done any advertising or anything like that?
Yeah. So I would say that the majority of them were referral since the beginning. The only advertisement I have really done is by word of mouth. I've printed off some flyers, brought them into real estate offices, but primarily it was agents I did cross sales with, and then agents that referred me. And I would say 95% of my business comes from agent referrals. So, just people saying I did a great job for them, passing my name off and getting a phone call. That's how I've met, a good 95% of the clients that I work with now. And little to no advertisement money spent, which is pretty awesome.
I know a lot of people out there that don't know people in the real estate industry are looking for tips about how to get into, real estate photography and make those connections. We'll definitely, get into that with maybe some other people. I want to make the message clear that, you don't have to know anyone in the real estate industry to get into it. It definitely helps though, for sure. As we both know, are you, it's just you, right? You don't have anyone else working for you at the moment?
No, yeah, it's just me. I do outsource some of my editing. I try to keep as much of my editing as I can in-house, but obviously if it gets really busy, I have to sleep every once in a while. So it's, but yeah, other than that, I am just operating solely on my own as of right now. And just back to that point about how you don't need to know anybody in the real estate industry. I think a lot of people do get hung up on that with the getting into photos in the first place. And you really just need to be willing to work is what I have realized about this field, especially where I'm at. There's a lot of people that they just aren't reliable enough. And I've just tried to treat this job the same way I did, with the same level of importance I did with, what I was doing in the military. And it's really paid off for me because there's a lot of very unreliable photographers around here. And I know personally that, 6 to 8 of the clients I work with, they all came from the same guy that just wasn't delivering photos in a timely manner, or was rescheduling appointments on his own behalf, or, just things that seem obvious as a business owner, but, people just weren't executing properly. And there's always room for somebody that's going to show up and do it a little better. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's so true. And I've definitely had similar, I've had similar experiences with my own clients that, clients that I've gained too. From for similar reasons. Work ethic is extremely important, and just delivering on what you say you're going to deliver on, and, all that stuff. Yeah, like you said, is obvious, but people start to slide on it and whatever. And it's just, you just have to keep up the high level of service. And, I think that's so important. I think that's the most important part of this whole thing. It's like, these skills of taking the photos, I think, is obviously important, and your product's important. But, I always say, really like your level of service and your relationship with your clients and that whole thing really outweighs. You could have a less quality photo product than your competitor, but if you have a great relationship with your clients, and they like you, and you deliver for them time and time again, that's more important, in the grand scheme of things,
A lot of people, I think that they do get caught up in that when they find success in their business, is that they think or they attribute it to just their quality of work and not their quality of service. And I know that there's people in town that take better pictures than me that probably aren't doing as many shoots as I am. And I'm okay with not being the best as long as people are happy with the service I'm providing. At the end of the day, we're not creating magazine pictures. If you are, that's awesome. But most of the time they're not. They're just pictures that are going on the MLS, and eventually they'll need new pictures of that house in the future. And, it's definitely just a service-based industry more than anything else. And like just trying to be a partner for the agents that you work with. And I think that's another thing that helped for me, is that I was an agent before. So I understood what an agent was looking for in a photographer. And, at the end of the day, we're just here to do what the agents are paying us to do, because that's, 100% of where our income is coming from. So some people get caught up too much in like the artistry of it. And I wouldn't call this as an art as much as a service. Obviously they look pretty, but it's not, at the end of the day, we're not, we're not that special. It's easy to replicate. You could do this, and you made that extremely obvious by, through your YouTube channel, that you can replicate this. Anybody can if they want to. You have to be willing to do it.
Yeah, right. Like skills can be learned. What differentiates you, is your service, and going above and beyond. I talk about that a lot, and some of my other videos. Just like that is what's going to get you further than anything, and so that's why I think these type of videos are so important, and why I want to do this type of videos on my channel. I know everyone loves the photography stuff, and I love it too. Like I love watching photography channels, and just I do love the creative aspect of it. That's what drew me into it from the get-go. So making a living with my camera, like that's that's like that was always my dream, and I'm living that, so it's great. But yeah, that side of it, the service side of it, like I learned a lot about that from my friend Frank, who owns a company here called Motion City Media that I do work with, and he's sort of been a mentor to me in that regard. He's a great business person. He's taught me so much about all that, about treating, how to treat your clients, and providing a high level of service. So I definitely can't stress that enough. You mentioned just before, sort of going into it, being an agent and sort of knowing what agents were looking for. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what you found that agents are kind of looking for in a photographer? I mean, I know we've probably talked a lot about it already, but I mean, if there was anything else that that comes to mind in that regard?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we did pretty much touch on those main things. Because again, it is extremely simple, I think. Because the bar, I think, was set pretty low, at least here when I got started. There wasn't enough people doing it at a very, very high, like very professional level. And most agents, they just wanted somebody that, one, could show up on time, two, would deliver the photos, hopefully by, at least by the time you said you would deliver them. But nowadays, it seems like the turnaround is about 24 hours. But some people, they're getting their photos delivered 4 or 5, 6 days later via a Dropbox link. And, I could just see that there was a better way of doing it. This was, an opportunity for a legitimate business, which I'm not saying there isn't in town. I'm just saying that there's some people that aren't treating it as such. And if you do, then I think that, that's exactly what agents want. They're operating at, at one of the most, the highest level professions in the country. Some of them, and dealing with people's biggest financial assets, we should be treating that with the same level of care as the realtor is, at least for that hour and a half we're on that shoot and we're participating in that world. Even if you're not the most professional person, or you never wanted to be a business person, being a business person for that hour and a half that you're there at your appointment will definitely serve you well as a photographer. And that's, I think, what most agents are looking for. Just even a uniform, a shirt, wear your logo. Don't show up in sweats and sneakers, just a lot of things that I think people try to overcomplicate processes sometimes. And these are all just such like day one things that you probably heard your mom say when you were like 15 years old, Yeah.
Just great correspondence too. Like when someone calls, answer the phone, like, right. Or if someone emails, like I try to respond like within minutes, what I mean? Just trying, that level of responsiveness. Cause I always hear that from a lot of people too. Like, oh, I had this photographer, that's like a common complaint. Like I get a new client, they're like, my last photographer, like I call him, he would never call me back, or like, all that stuff. Like, just it's simple, like you said, simple things, but they're hugely important. When I'm in the zone, I don't want to have to pick up the phone, but I just make sure that I do, or unless I absolutely can't. But those simple things that are go such a long way, and they're so often overlooked.
I don't even think I could handle scheduling on a daily basis throughout my appointments at this point without having a scheduling tool on my website. And little things like that, I think as you progress, like I can still manage pretty well just on my own. But you definitely, I feel like with something like that, it makes things a lot easier. And I know agents have really appreciated that. So that's another good, helpful thing that I think could probably potentially help a lot of people that are getting into doing this as a new business. That really did propel my business quite a bit when I started doing online scheduling, because of how well agents received that. They were, happy to be able to just look into my calendar, add a listing appointment, and say, okay, we can get him right here at this time. And they also added on to a ton of the additional requests, like 3D tours, floor plans, video, because there was no pressure to upsell over the phone. They would just be able to shop, add it to their cart, and it's increased my order volume pretty much like exponentially compared to what I was doing before. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Not only am I making more money, but I'm saving a lot of time on the scheduling. So
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And yeah, that has always been, one of the things I've, about, that I like so much is that, you have all your services listed there. So some people don't even think about it. It's like, if they're just calling you, they're like, yeah, I just need to schedule photos. But yeah, if they see that in front of their face, like, oh, like, yeah, maybe I'll do it. You know what I mean? So it's definitely helps you upsell. What are you using for that?
I was using HD Photo Hub at the very beginning. They're actually local, I found out. I didn't know that until after I got started, but the guys who created that are from here. I don't think that it's the worst software ever. I do think it was helpful. I just personally didn't use it as much as I thought I would have when I got started. And I recently discovered Ario or Ario, however you pronounce that. And so that's what I've been using. I just like the simplicity of it. So I started using that. I got like their cheapest option at the beginning just to test it out. And agents are happy with it. I'm happy with it. And it ensures that invoices are paid on time. I'm not having to chase anything down. So I think it's a great tool for real estate photographers.
It is a great tool. I know a lot of real estate photographers like that. I've been meaning to do a video on that too, which I will do at some point. I've actually met with the Ario guys.
Nice.
And yeah, I just have not yet executed on making a video about it, but I will. But yeah, that's a great tool. Absolutely. I know quite a few people that use that and really love it. So I guess also I'm sure people are curious, like, what are you, as far as shooting, what are you doing? Are you doing brackets? Are you using a flash? Or like, what is your technique as far as that goes?
Well, I've recently gotten into doing flash photography, but I'm not offering it as a service yet. I don't have it dialed in enough that I would feel comfortable trying to sell it to people. So as of right now, everything has just been 5-bracket HDR images. That's what I've been doing since the start. Actually, I've done a few experiments just to compare the two, a 5-bracket HDR versus shooting flambient. Obviously, you can tell that flambient does most of the time turn out a little bit nicer. But for the average eye, especially the average realtor, they really can't tell much of a difference. So just to cut down on the hassle, sticking with HDR has been what I chose. I know some people, they stick to strictly flambient around here. And I'm sure that's why they get the clients they do. In a lot of cases, the quality is there. But this, in the way that things have been working for me, quantity has been more of a profitable thing for me, and I think there's room for both for sure, especially in the luxury market. But even the $200,000-$300,000 houses need photos, and agents would prefer to pay us rather than go out and take pictures with their phone. So the 5-bracket has been all I've been doing since I got started.
The majority of my shoots are that too, and it's an efficient way to do it. I think for sure the most efficient way to do it. And yeah, once you start getting volume too, like you said you are now, and I'm doing 4, 5, 6 shoots in a day. So a lot of most days, on special high-end shoots, will I break it out, a flash out and do that? Yeah. And where I'm editing it myself and all that, yeah. And if you're outsourcing too, in my experience, outsourcing flambient is a disaster. At least I'm not saying you can't do it and there's not editors out there that can handle it, but I've just experimented, sending some out, and I've never gotten good results back. So it's something that, I reserve for when I'm editing something myself, and I enjoy, I enjoy editing. I enjoy the process of shooting that way and editing that way. So it's fun. Yeah. So you mentioned, always being interested in photography and video and all that stuff. Did you have any experience with it prior to this, or did you learn all this basically in the last couple of years?
I had some basic photography knowledge. It didn't extend outside of shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. Those were just, I learned the basics of photography from a pretty young age, and just used it, as a hobby kind of thing growing up. I learned a little bit of the software stuff, a little bit of Adobe products I learned how to use when I was younger. Though I'd say the majority of my knowledge I have now comes from that period of time, right around 2020 when I just started to dig deep into researching how to, the best practices for doing real estate photography specifically. I still don't think I wouldn't even call myself a professional photographer in any other regard outside of real estate. It is a very particular type of photo. So it's not something that, if you're good at that, it doesn't mean you're good at anything else. And
it's a certain technique, and but that's your craft, and that's really what all you really need to know. Unless if you get interested in other types of photography, you can learn those too. But
my total startup cost was probably like right around $1,000 because I had it was a Sony A6400, pretty cheap tripod from Best Buy, a couple SD cards. I was just using a remote shutter app from my phone. So, started with like bare minimum equipment, and little experience, and it has still worked out pretty well. So
the thing about real estate photography, the barrier for entry is fairly low. Like, a couple $1,000s, you can get into it, and it's not a big of investment up front. I think that's why it's attractive to a lot of people that are trying to get into photography, or trying to think of ways to make a career out of photography. And I think that's great. I think that's cool that so many people are interested. I've seen that just from this YouTube channel, and people I've talked to, and all that stuff, and the sort of technique of it, and like you just said, like, it's very specific and also very learnable. So I think that's cool and attractive to people, because it's not so intimidating in a lot of ways. It's like, you see how it's done, and you're like, oh, I can learn that, and I not to say that it's like, like you don't need skills to do it. I think you do. And like, especially like when it comes to composition and like, framing your shots, and that's composing your shots. I think that's where the biggest difference comes in between like an experienced real estate photographer and an inexperienced one. Like everyone, everyone can learn how to level their camera and like, put, everything like that, and learn how to take the shots and all that stuff. But yeah, like, I think that's where like the sort of creative eye comes into it, and just knowing aesthetically what looks good.
If the shots are level and straight, or pointing in the right direction, because I mean that is even just having the camera level, I think, is something that I see people do wrong all the time. So
right.
I'm slightly tilted up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, people do struggle with that too. Yeah.
Here's actually a good story I can share with people that are looking at getting started right now. This is probably again, back to the just treating your people right. This is something that has helped me quite a bit. And well, I mean, this just might be something that'll help other people understand kind of what they're getting themselves into. I recently picked up a huge client here in town, and he had been working with the same photographer he was pretty loyal to for quite a period of time. I mean, years, like 5, 6, 7, I don't know exactly how many years. This guy has been doing it for a long time. Phenomenal photographer. His pictures are fantastic. I don't know him personally, but I do know why the company switched from him to using me. And I know it's not because the quality is better. My pictures, I wouldn't say are better than theirs. But it's just a business practice thing, and they were starting to resell pictures from prior shoots to other agents, relisting that house, years later. And so that the client I just got, his clients had a problem with that. They seen pictures from 2 years ago with all their stuff back up on the MLS. They weren't happy with it. Let him know. He had a conversation with the photographer, and he said, this is just how I'm operating business now. And he said, well, not with me or not. So, I mean, that's just kind of how I picked up that client. And I know that most of it was just prior frustration with the last photographer is where most of my clients came from. And I think that will probably also be if I ever have struggles, that will be the reason why I lose clients as well, is because of, lack of communication, or not, meeting the client's needs or demands. And one of those is just being, a huge proponent of their business and what it is that they're doing. And I would say in this case, he was, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, reselling pictures rather than just, meeting his clients' wishes. And so that would be the best advice I could give people getting into it, is just to really respect those relationships you have with the clients that are keeping you paid, and try to maintain that relationship as long as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good point too. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I stress that to people all the time. Like, be careful with like the nickel and diming, because that rubs people the wrong way, and you can lose clients over it. Yes, we technically own the copyright to the photo. We do have the right to sell them to other people. And this comes up for me in business fairly frequently. Like, someone else gets the listing, and a lot of times they're both my client. Like, oh, I know you shoot for so-and-so, and I actually just got the listing. Do you think, I can buy the photos from you? I'll get calls like that. I say, listen, like, if you want to contact the other agent and get their blessing, yes, technically, like, I have the right to do that without even consulting them, but it's not worth anyone getting upset over, or I'll just go reshoot it. A lot of times they'll be like, or the agent is like not okay with this. So I'm like, we have to reshoot it. Like, that I'm not going to do that to them. Or someone uses their photos without permission. Like, I understand, like, yeah, that makes you, that's very frustrating. And, your first initial like gut reaction to that is like going after them and like, sort of like, berating them for doing that. If you call that agent up and you tell them off for using your photos and demand money from them, that's a potential client that you could add, and now they're gonna talk badly about you to the real estate community is they talk to each other, they do deals with each other,
on the lines.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's just not, and this is what we were talking about earlier. Just just as a general business practice, like just being wise to this sort of thing, and not stepping on your own toes and getting in your own way by, yes, am I saying that's okay for them to take the photo? No, of course not. But like, you could reach out to them respectfully and explain the situation and do it in a very kind way. It's like, even though, yes, like maybe you're angry about it, and like, I understand that, but just keeping those things in mind, treading carefully in those situations. You get on someone's bad side, that could go much further than you might expect. So I appreciate you coming on here and sharing, some of your story with us and your experiences with us. So that's awesome. And I'm sure everyone else appreciates it as well. So, definitely wish you the best of luck going forward. And I'm stoked to see how well you're doing, and over a relatively short period of time too. That's incredible. And congratulations on that. And best of luck with everything.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's going well. I'm just going to keep it up and see where I can take this,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great. It's great. I wish I was where you were when I was 24 years old. Yeah.
I wouldn't be here without the art. I did not have a good work ethic prior, but it definitely put me on the right path. I mean, seeing people living the way they do, and how much we have here versus what people have in places that will never have the opportunities we have, it really opened my eyes a lot. And made me take things much less for granted. So
I'm sure it did. Yeah. And and if you want to learn a good work ethic, that's the place to do it, I'm sure. Yeah.